All right, if you are listening to this episode when it is released, which I know you are because you are a huge fan, first, I appreciate you, and I thank you very much. However, we have 10 days and counting to our next live event. So if you are on the fence, if you don't know if it's right for you, just let me talk to you about that for a second. Our live event is going to cover how to become a category of one. In that lecture, you are going to understand how to overcome the objections that you are getting. And it isn't the sales process, because what we say in our sales process is the sales process is easy if your marketing works. And so if you don't understand how to market your service, you will continue to get insurance obstacles, no matter where you are in the country. If you think you're in a small town or the area doesn't have a lot of money, I just beg to differ and say that you don't have an understanding on how to market your services to become the category of one. And so my main lecture on Saturday will be about how to become the category of one. So if you are frustrated with people always asking about insurance, if you don't know how to explain to a patient why you charge more, and if you dread that conversation, it means that they are calling you or they are speaking to you before they are marketed to. If you understand your marketing message, if you understand how to become a category of one, I promise you those next level conversations about insurance, about finances will become significantly easier. There's a chance that by solving that problem, you build the business of your dreams. Or there's also a chance if you don't solve that problem, you're going to go the next 25 years wondering why they lied to you going to chiropractic school. Folks, I got news for you. They didn't lie. You can make a world-class living. You can make the salary that you deserve. You can get paid what you think is right. But you got to be able to do the marketing. And we are going to teach you exactly how to do that. In addition to that, we have Mike Michalowicz, 9-time author, Pumpkin Plan, Toilet Paper Entrepreneur, Profit First, all in every book that is relevant in business, he has written, man. He is so popular. I talk to people not in our industry that are entrepreneurs and say, Mike is coming to speak, and their eyes light up. I've had 3 people reach out that aren't even in the mastermind asking about a guest pass just so they could sit in and listen to Mike speak. I promise you, Mike costs about as much as a semester of chiropractic school to come and speak to you. So if you can come on a guest pass at a significant discount, man, you are trading a little bit of money for a lot of value. And so I hope to see you all there. Today's episode, we have Dr. Mike Guardino, who is in North Carolina. Mike has been in our world a little over a year, and ever since I met Mike, I knew that he was going to be special. Mike is someone who not only understood how to build his business, but he always thought 2 to 3 steps ahead of where he's currently at. He is someone who I resonate with very much so because I see a lot of myself in him, and it's worked out pretty well for me, and I think it's going to happen for him. As soon as he achieves the first milestone, hey, what's next? The thing with Mike that is different from a lot of other people that I work with is Mike truly understands the value of building and growing people. And in order to be successful in this profession, which I don't think we do a good job of collectively, is building people. So he's built a nice little team. He is in the process of building the next level of team. And don't sleep on Mike, because I predict that in the next few years, he is going to win this race beyond many of his colleagues, many of which he may have started behind. And as many of you know my story, that's my story as well. I think you'll understand why after hearing Mike speak, but he's building quite the business down in North Carolina. We love to have him part of our group. Last year, he actually was the winner of our Referral for Reward program, which is essentially a program that we run as a contest to see how many people each of our members can refer into our world. And that takes a lot of trust. It takes a lot of work, and he won. And so that tells us the level that he's willing to play at, and also how much he believes in what we do, and personally how much I believe in him. So I hope you enjoy this episode. Mike's world class, and can't wait to see you all in a few days. What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Business School for the Rehab Chiropractor. Class is officially in session. My name is Justin Rabinowitz, and I am a rehab chiropractor on a mission to teach you, a fellow rehab chiropractor, the exact tools and systems I've used to build my own successful rehab chiropractic practice so you can do the same. I hope you enjoy, and please subscribe. Mike, give us your biggest mindset shift since prior to ChiroBiz 101 and Mastermind to now.
So when I first started my practice, it's, I'm a chiropractic office. I provide rehab services. And what I realize now is that in order for people to know who we are, we identify now as a media company that happens to provide those services for people who need them.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. And so you talked about recently in our mastermind call, I cut you off before we started so you could share it on the pod for the audience. What did you take from this past week's mastermind call that kind of furthers that point?
So when you're doing your marketing, you have to look at it from the point of view as you can't be compared to anything else. And what you meant by that was you can't preach services, you can't preach chiropractic, you can't even really preach rehab, because people then can go ahead and pick out different things with other people and compare you to those other things. So you have to find things that make you unique and that nobody at all can compare you to. So
I love that.
Rehab programs, et cetera, et cetera.
I love that. Good. And now let's go back a little bit. So how long have you had your practice for? And did you open up right out of school?
I did open up right out of school. I've been open now just over 2 years.
Love that. And so you were open a little bit over a year, maybe a little longer before you did ChiroBiz 101, and just give the audience an idea, roughly average revenue before to where we currently sit. So we have some context.
So average revenue in year one, I think, was between $4,000 and $5,000 a month. Mm-hmm. This past year, we were at $13,000 a month. So a good jump. We tripled our revenue from year one to year two. So I'm proud of that. And then this year we're projecting to do $250,000 in revenue.
So we're trying to get to that 20 to 25K a month mark on average. And then at that point, we'll have what I would call a stable, very healthy business for a solo provider owner. And then we can make some decisions on what the next steps are. Yes?
Absolutely. Yep.
Love that. All right. So good. We have some context. Now let's go back a little bit. So, you are one of those who opened up right out of school. What was it that led you to do it? And the context behind this is that I think a lot of people open up because there are no other options. Were you one of those, or you were just, hell bent on getting your thing going?
I think a little bit of both. I think knowing what I wanted to do, I was very clear on what I wanted to do and how I wanted to practice. Mm-hmm. And there wasn't a lot of great options, especially in the area that I'm in. I knew we wanted to live in North Carolina. So I think that, and I think a little bit of blissful ignorance coming out of school, thinking, okay, I can do this, and kind of betting on myself, which, take it how you will. It's worked out so far, but if there was an option, better options out there, I probably would have taken it. Yep. But there just wasn't. There's nothing out there.
I haven't talked about this with any of the podcast guests, but you are originally from upstate New York, went to chiro school in Florida, and moved to North Carolina. So not only did you open up your own right out of school, but you didn't go back to, like I did, a benefit of going to your hometown where you at least are familiar with the area and the lay of the land. So maybe take us back to first opening or thinking about getting the doors open. How did you even start to, make Mike a guy in North Carolina?
It's a great question. I've always been somebody that's fairly comfortable. Like, I've lived in a bunch of different areas. So moving to a new area wasn't something that scared me, but I did know in the back of my mind I wasn't going to have the luxury of the hometown advantage. So at first, it was a lot of grassroots, just walking into different places, shaking hands, introducing myself, and just saying, hey, I'm Mike Guardino. I just opened a rehab chiropractic office. This is where we're at. Just how can I help you guys? Like, what do you guys do? Can I take a class here? It was a lot of that, especially in the first year.
So now let's get a little more tactical. So I loved your mindset shift to the media company, but that's very high level, which I like, but I want to go into the weeds a little bit. What give me maybe 1 to 2 key things that changed for you from being the person that averaged 5K to average 15 that is projected to average 20 to 25K a month in a 3-year plan. Like, what are those things for our audience that could say, like, yes, this is absolutely what changed and that's what got us here?
I think the biggest thing, especially to your point about being a media company, was first getting really consistent on social media, Instagram specifically. I know Kaylee talks a lot about this. If you're not consistent, then you're not even in the game. So we got really consistent on posting on social media. And then now we're to the point where we are running ads and we're trying to optimize our content, and it's paid dividends for us.
Gotcha. So then go back even before that, because when you joined our program, you were already in business and had it going. And, I've been around other programs. And one of the first things we did was talk about price, lifetime value, and all that. And for most businesses, when they get to us, and this is just me giving people the answer, that's the first thing on a fundamental level that we look at. And I want you to share your story, and then I can give you even some more context at a business at a higher level to do the same thing. So talk about that a little bit.
So when I came to you guys, I was doing 30-minute appointments and thus charging half of what I should have been charging. And one of the big switches that I made right out the get-go, even before, I was making the transition into into Chiro Biz 101 and started doing hour-long appointments and adjusted my price. And for anybody out there listening, if you're wondering if people care, they don't. Like, if you go to an hour-long appointment and you can provide that value over a longer period of time, and you're still charging the right price. Like, I had patients that were at 30 minutes and they were like, yep, hour's fine with me. Mm-hmm. So I think that was the biggest thing right off the bat. The first lever I can pull, like, what do? I just need to go to hour-long appointments. 30 minutes just wasn't cutting it.
So give us the numbers, because it's the same amount of patients at 30 minutes. You were charging X, and then you moved it to what, so that the audience can see?
I think when I first switched over to hour-long appointments, I was charging $125 for 30-minute appointments, and then I made the switch and immediately went to $200 for hour-long appointments, and then we've just gone up significantly from there.
And so for the audience here, roughly how many visits a week? And I want to do this math because, by the way, for anyone that's listening, if you take Chiro Biz 101, you start the course, and week 3 you get a check-in call with Justin. 10 times out of 10, the entire check-in call is literally what Mike and I are about to do. And so if you want to get through the step before you get to the next step of asking Justin, what should I do? This is the answer. So you're at 125. Roughly how many visits per week or month were you seeing?
That's a good,
roughly.
Yeah, 15.
15 a week.
Yeah,
okay,
15
so
a
15 visits a week. So that's basically 1875. So times 4.2 week months, that's 78, checks out, 78.75. And if we snap our fingers and we go to 200 for the same amount of patients, so 200, I'm literally doing the math as we're sitting here, 200 times 15 visits times 4.2, overnight, if we do that, if all we did was raise our price and put our prices in the right place, we go from $7,875 to $12,600 per month in revenue. And if we multiply that by 12, we've gone basically from a $93,000 gross revenue business to $150,000 gross revenue business by just making that one change. And I think the point of this, again, this is brilliant and it's so simple, but like I said, I've done hundreds of these calls with people that pay us a lot of money to learn this. And you're sharing the story with you of literally get on a piece of paper. Let's make sure the fundamentals are right. And the reason why this is so important is because you now, Mike, are at a position where we can have more advanced conversations of how do we hire? What do we do? What's the strategy? Be a media company. But the problem that I see in business is that most people, they want to do that stuff before they work on this. And so what a lot of people would do is they would say, Justin, I'm not making enough money. I need a better marketing plan. Can you help me with this, that, and the other? And I would just say, all right, let's talk about the fundamentals. Let's get your price right. I wanted to share that with all of you here because it's interesting in that this fundamental issue, it oftentimes doesn't necessarily change, even if you're making more money at the start. In my CEO group, which I'm a student in, we just got a new member, and the guy has a really great practice, despite the fact he's doing $500,000 to $600,000 of revenue. And when we did this exercise with him, his price points were off, his PVA was off, his sales, he had no sales process. And it's we were all sitting there because we're a bunch of veterans. We've been doing it, 800,000, 900, 1.2, $2 million in revenue. We're looking at this guy and it's I can't believe you make that much money without any of this. And by the end of the day, his session, it literally was this exercise. And we're if you do this remotely correct for the next 9 months, 10 months of the year, you're going to be making $850,000, $900 by doing nothing different, by just working on the fundamentals here. And so for everyone out there that's wondering what's the magic is to do the basics right. Make sure your prices are appropriate. Make sure that your PVA is correct. Make sure that your lifetime value is correct. You can overcome so many of the initial issues. And then we can have fun. It's kind of like in the practice practice, Mike. When someone comes in with lower back pain, it's like there's a certain fundamental things we need to do to get them out of back pain. And once we do that, then we can have fun with them. Then we can start building the business, which is exactly where you are today. Now, the next question that people will have, Mike, talk about your experience. You mentioned a little bit low, having a 125 to 200 and now well beyond that. Are you getting many people now that from that price to the price now are saying, no way, crazy expensive compared to when you were 125?
No, the percentage of people who, the objections are still the same. It doesn't matter. It's like we talked about. Just say a different number. People are going to object at any price point. And it just goes back to having a better sales process and having better objection handling. That's it.
Yeah.
That's all it comes down to.
And I think, the sentiment that you're speaking about, which we do as well, is you do need to improve your process and you do need to change as the numbers go up and you do need to offer better service. And you can't just think that what you did when you were charging, $1,000 or thinking your price at 125 is expensive. The same process doesn't work at a higher level. So your skills need to improve. But Mike, what you're saying is if my skills improve and requisite in line with what my price now becomes, I'm still going to have people that say no, but it's the same amount that said no before.
Yeah.
And so if we understand that, now again, we have a chance to play the game the way we want it. And so I absolutely love that. Tying it back together, I'm curious about your take on this. We talked about in the marketing how to be so much different than everyone else. Yeah. And one of the things that I saw in my experience, because I did from 2015 to 2020, I did the 30-minute thing. And what my experience at that point was doing a 30-minute visit was that it was different than the other people down the street, but it wasn't different enough. And the reason I say that, to give it context, we purchased a practice from an old school Chiro in 2021 or something. And when we took over his practice, he did normal, like heat stim, like a little bit of whatever. And the patients were in the office for 30 minutes. Now, it looked a lot different than our 30 minutes, but if we said, oh, you're going to be with the doctor for 30 minutes, well, they would say the same thing. And that guy was charging $60. Mm-hmm. So it's like in their head, is it separate enough there where if you move to a longer appointment, which again isn't a requirement, it's more of a marketing exercise to look at it. Can the patient understand the value potentially even more because it actually fundamentally is different? So why don't you speak to your experience, because you sort of have done both and seen both.
Yeah, I think originally I picked the 30-minute price point because it was different enough from other chiropractors. But again, going back to the exercise, it just, if it doesn't work on paper, it's just not going to work. So we had to go to an hour session. But even now we're finding that just being at an hour still isn't even enough. So now it's really preaching to people like, hey, we do hour-long sessions every single time you come in. It's one-on-one with me. You're not getting passed off to an assistant. You're not in the back for 30 minutes doing stim or ice or heat. It's a one-on-one session the entire time. But the biggest difference is it's a whole entire rehab program. Like you're committed from start to finish.
Yeah.
I think people are really understanding that now. And the people that just know that they need more and they know that is what's going to get them the resolution and the outcome that they're looking for, they're the ones raising their hand saying, hey, I need help.
So you mentioned one phrase there that I want you to go into. You said they just know they need more. So now we get into the psychographics of a patient. The classic typical patient that's coming into your office, how do they know, or what was their experience prior to make them say, I just need more?
So I talk to people every single week on the phone when I do discovery calls. And more often than not, they've already come from a chiropractor or a PT. And I joke with them. I say, listen, you're not the first person, nor will you be the last that's ever called this office or reached out to this office who's had a prior experience. And we try to dig in to that experience and figure out what it was that they liked and what it was that they didn't like and how we can differentiate ourselves. So most of the time, though, they realize that even though they were at the PT for an hour, 20 minutes was ice. Then the PT would come in and do a few stretches with them. And then they would give them a packet of information, leave them in the room for the rest of the time to do it by themselves. And they realized, well, it's all good while I'm here for an hour, but I'm not getting the one-on-one attention that I feel like I need and I feel like I deserve, especially if I'm going to pay money to try to resolve this. So they found that it would help short term, like a lot of things, but it's not giving them the long term. So we hear the word longevity a lot in our practice, and a lot of people have been through this cycle over and over and over again of trying to get out of pain, and it's temporary results, temporary relief. But what they haven't found is that long term solution, and that's what we try to echo in our marketing messaging. Hey, we are going to be that long term solution, but this is how we're different. This is how we're going to do it.
I think it's a great point. And, doing this now 12 years, I always say, like, I'm just starting to figure it out. And I think in another 10, I'll probably say the same thing again, just continuing to understand marketing in general, understanding the consumer, understanding how people make buying decisions. And the way that you're speaking, it like makes me super happy because you understand this, something that's taken me a decade longer, that in 2 to 3 years. And I think the fact that you get that is so valuable. And I think to give the audience a little bit more context, I think a lot of times based on this rehab chiro model, 1 hour, like all these one-on-one, it's all of this, some of the shorter term chiropractors, some of the in-network PTs, they almost think that, like, we believe that this is the only option. Like, you guys are terrible, you shouldn't do that. It's like, personally, I don't give a shit what anyone else does. And I also don't think that every single patient or every single person that has any issue needs to be patients in our practice. Just fundamentally in business, in small business, we are not trying, and we shouldn't try to be all things to all people. The thing, Mike, that you said that resonated so much with me was that the typical person that has come to our office, they fit a very common profile. They've been to other places in the past. They've done the other option, potentially the cheaper option, and they're calling us for a reason. They're not calling us saying, like, I had an amazing experience, I have no pain anymore, like, I want to come see you, Mike, because you're such a nice guy. It's like, no. They're calling because I did that. I did all of that. It might have been okay, but I still have a problem. And Mike, it sounds like, or from your marketing or from the mission or the time or whatever the thing is, I didn't get the result I wanted with X, and this seems different. Maybe this gives me a chance. And again, I think that marketing message and that idea is so valuable because it helps, I think, people in business understand that when you are different from someone else, a lot of people get very upset and annoyed, but you're trying to work with a certain type of customer. And you have patients, and Strive to Move has patients every single day, that the only reason why we are in business is because the other options failed them. And the line we like to use oftentimes, that people that come to us is that you didn't fail PT or chiro failed you. Now, again, I'm not naive. We have a very, very nice practice, and we still only need to see, 12, 13 brand new patients a month. I live in New Jersey. There are many other people that go to the 7 million other PTs and physical therapists and chiropractors in town, and doctors and orthopedists and surgeons and all of that get wonderful outcomes. I'm not trying to think that I need to serve all of them or that I'm the best option for all of them. All I need to be is for those 12 to 14 people a month who haven't gotten the results they wanted and need something different. That's who I'm talking to. And my mission in life and in business is to make sure that I do everything I can to make sure they become my patients. And so I think that the fact that as you spoke through it, you understand that now is so vital, that and that lesson can go into anything. And the fact that you and I are on this call is a testament to that. Like, if you go to Justin's Instagram page, he doesn't say, I can help anybody grow their business. It's like, I help this specific niche of people. Doesn't mean that we don't have PTs, which we do. Doesn't mean there aren't acupuncture in a group, which we have. It means that I know I'm going to be very specific. And I think you've been able to understand and learn that tremendously well, even the way you articulate it, which it shows. And I think the metrics of the practice have improved because of it.
Can I say something there, Justin?
Yeah, absolutely.
So you mentioned something interesting earlier, and you said, and I appreciate the compliment of, hey, it's taken me a really long time to figure this out. And just to hear you say that and you're learning it quickly, that's a testament to coaching, right? So in business, there's no shortcuts in business. I don't think there's any shortcuts in business. We can't cut the corner, but I think that the vehicle that we're traveling in will determine the speed at which we can go. And I think being in a coaching vehicle allows us to go 100 miles an hour instead of 10 miles an hour. So it can get us there faster. We can't cut the corners, but we can get there faster.
Yeah, and I love that. My business coach always used to tell me, he's like, listen, like there's we have in every group of 100 people, 10% of them, they're going to be wildly successful. If they come into my world, my only job is to help it happen to them faster. That's it. Right. That's it. And so that becomes the goal. There are people, it's like a 10-80-10. 10 out of 100 are going to be successful no matter what. Can I help them get there faster? The 10 on the other end, they could work with Warren Buffett. They're still going to fail. Right. The coaching in the middle is the ones that are like, yeah, they could go either way. And if they get within the right person, they might actually be successful versus not. But I think that's just a basic, tenet of life. So we talked about the growth you've had, which has been incredible, and the path forward, which, again, it's funny. We're just getting started with where you're at, it's so incredible to watch. Why don't you talk about over the last 2 years, some of the struggles you've had, some of the problems that you've had to overcome in business? Because obviously we know it's not always sunshines and rainbows.
No, it's not. That's I think as a business owner, being able to personally deal with the ups and downs of the business, because it's new to me. I've never experienced the ups and downs of business. I think last year, the first year was just survival mode, right? And then in year 2, it was learn. And so we would have really good months and then we would have not so good months. And it's like, okay, can you handle and deal with that mentally over the course of the year and not let the train crash, so to speak? So that's a big personal struggle, is just keeping that even keel, like no matter what's going on in the business, just keeping the level head and making sure that you're still doing the things that are going to keep you successful, even though the outcomes are not there at that moment in time. I think the biggest thing I probably learned in the past 3 months is delayed gratification. So doing the things now that aren't going to make you any money today, but 6 months to a year down the road, 3 years, 5 years down the road, they're going to pay dividends. So I'd say that was the biggest thing personally. We started to hire this year and bring on people. And like you said, it's one thing when you have to manage yourself, and it's another thing when you have to manage people. And I think I'm somebody that I do well managing people, almost to a fault, where I want to give so much to that person to help them succeed. But for me, it's if I'm dedicating all of my time to those people, it's like, what isn't getting done in the business? So I think I have to find that balancing act of making sure that the team is successful, but also make sure that I'm not what's the word I'm looking for? I'm not
taking your eye off the ball on what matters.
Yeah, taking my eye off the ball and just neglecting the things that I need to do that are going to make the business grow and succeed. So I think that was a big learning point for me as well this past year. And I would say that the last thing in terms of, the growing pains of the practice is just being able to take and learn all of this information and apply it and understand that it's not always going to go right the first time. It's like we talk about this on Thursday. Like business, like getting rich is boring, but it's like it is boring, but it's like a bunch of little science experiments, right? You learn information, you take that information, you apply it, you see if it works. Great. If not, okay, why didn't it work? What can we tweak? What levers can we pull? What dials can we turn to make it better? And you just rinse and repeat that process over and over again. I don't know about anybody listening, but I think that's awesome. I enjoy that part of just having the freedom to basically make decisions and over again, just, we call it fail forward. So it's getting comfortable with failing, but learning the lesson and then going, okay, what are we going to do different next time?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the thing you mentioned there, which becomes sort of the culture of the business. And I learned this from my mentor, which now I know has sort of seeped into the fabric of what we do within our businesses. Is I think I used to be someone with a fixed mindset where it's I would do something and it would be very this worked or this didn't work. And what you're talking through, it's just a mindset shift. It's just to say we are doing X and we didn't figure it out yet, or we haven't figured out. It doesn't mean that our price are too expensive. It's that we haven't figured out how to communicate in a way to make people understand why. It doesn't mean that when an employee relationship doesn't work out, that all employees are bad and that we can't hire. It means that we might have picked the wrong person or didn't train them properly, or we were distracted with something else or whatever. There's always a reason. And so I think going into it, and it just is like a level of freedom and open-mindedness that no matter what problem in the business that you have or in life, that you're going to figure it out. I think the same thing in patient care. There's always a solution. It might not mean that I'm the one that can solve the problem, but for every problem that you face clinically, there's always a solution. There's always a solution. The solution might be refer them out. It might be a different set of exercise. It might be more treatment. It might be less treatment. It might be cognitive therapy, but you go into it with that open mindset. And I think so many people in our world specifically that are high level clinicians, what happens is they have that mindset clinically, but not business wise. And I think that that's one of the things that I always try to tell people is I know you already think this way in this section of your life, but you don't think about that in your business. It's like, I didn't figure the back pain out yet. And then it's like, marketing doesn't work. It's like, hold on a second, guys. Like, we've got to, where are we getting to? I wasn't going to ask you this, but as you talk more, you use the word we very much. And, your wife, who I've met a few times, she asks great questions. She's not fully involved in the business yet, but it sounds like you guys are very much on the same page, and that she is someone that is a positive to the business and you, and not a detractor. And the reason I say that is because if the number one takeaway that I heard from multiple people at the live event in San Diego was the relationship with the spouse. Like Ashton was talking about, 10 people talked to him, and Kevin Vandy, and so many people brought that to our attention. So obviously, if we're hearing it there and seeing it, it's obviously something that's on the minds of people. I'm curious, maybe just give a little background on your wife, what she's currently doing, and maybe what you guys have found to works to make so far a very successful relationship and also a business relationship.
This is all part of my master plan. So it's I'm just kidding. But I wanted to bring her in to my world, our world, because I think, and I know, if your spouse is on board and they understand what you're going through and they understand why you're making certain decisions and how you're making those decisions, they're going to be, she's already an amazing, very supportive wife, but when she understands what I'm going through, she can support me that much more. And like you said, a lot of businesses die in the hands of a spouse that just constantly says no. So we sat down and we had a long conversation because the first year we did not make any money. And thank goodness my wife was able to kind of carry us the first year.
She's a PA.
She's a PA. So yeah, she's got a great job. She started off making, close to $100,000. Like, she has a really good job. So she was able to cover us the first year while I'm getting the business going, and until I met this guy named Justin. So then we get to a point where she comes home every day and I look at her, I go, honey, listen, I said, like, what's going on? Like, scale of 0 to 10, like, how much are you enjoying your job? And she goes, same thing, can't you 7? And she goes, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6. And I said, what's going on? And she's, God bless her, because it's like PAs they make great money, but they just get wrecked in terms of how much they have to work. Like, she worked a shift yesterday and just within 4 hours had to see 17 pages. I mean, it gets crazy, right? So the burnout in their profession is also very real. We saw that. So I saw this starting to happen to her, and I said, well, what if, and her situation is unique because she could drop down to per diem. It's not like she has this job, she has to be there every single day. So I said, well, what if you work per diem? You worked as much or as little as you want, depending on how we're doing, and then you can help out with some things in the practice. And she said, okay, let's give it a go. And we set a timeline. We did this in July, and I said, we're going to sit down and reassess this at the end of the year. We're going to give it 6 months. And if it's not working, you'll go back to work full time. I'll figure out something else, whatever. And I got to tell you, Justin, best decision we ever made. Best decision.
I guess to me that's the cool part. But I'm actually curious about the kind of in that first year, because what I think happens a lot of times is that first year of business owner's scared shitless, and
Yeah.
then you have a spouse at home who's like, this my husband went to, or wife went to professional school, they come out and they do this thing and they're making no money, and it's like, what did I sign up for? So what was, how did that, like, have that conversation early on when I could see it on a very basic level of like, what the hell is this?
I don't know. I think again, she's always been supportive. So, when we were dating in school, I told her, I was like, this is what I want to do. I want to open my own practice. And she was always very supportive of that, which I'm thankful for, because not everybody is.
Sure.
Um, I guess, can you clarify in terms of like what the conversations we had, like going into this, or what?
I mean, so the reason why I think a lot of spouses, get in the heads of the business owner is because inherently at the deepest level, they're scared. And they want to protect you. So when they say like, oh, maybe you should get a job, or oh, this isn't working, or maybe you should lower your price, or maybe you should take insurance, Mike, you're not making any money, maybe you should take insurance to get the business off the ground. Like all of these things that inherently, that you don't want to do and shouldn't do, but your spouse, they're trying to come up with solutions to a problem because they inherently want you to be successful and be scared, and don't want you to be scared. So that's kind of what I'm curious about. Now, in my situation with my wife, like our relationship is such that she basically says, listen, I don't know anything about what you do, so I'm not going to give suggestions. And we just sort of keep it separate. But your wife is involved a little bit more. So how does that look?
So I think I'm gonna quote Hermosi here. I think you win in the draft, and I think I absolutely won in the draft. She never questioned anything. I think she maybe I didn't show fear. I don't know. I probably did, but she never questioned my decision making. And anytime I presented her and we would talk about stuff. I think communication is key in terms of it being successful, and explaining why I'm doing what I'm doing. But, she was very open to the process, and very open to me having my own practice, and being an entrepreneur and making those tough decisions. So I don't really know how to explain it, other than like she just
probably. It sounds like it's a conversation I'd have to ask her, of like, why weren't you scared and all of that? Because to what you're saying, it wasn't. It was just like you said, you got a little lucky in the draft that it's just how it worked out, where other people potentially don't have that luck.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, you'd have to ask her. I'm sure there was points in time where she was, but I think we had a good plan. And again, with her job and us living below our means, and just like, I think we were also just really smart about how we were going about it.
Mm-hmm.
So again, it wasn't like we were banking on me also making a 6-figure salary in the first year.
Yeah.
Even with her salary alone, like we were living well below our means. So again, we're in this for the long game too. And I think she also very much understood that. And I got lucky, and for her to say yes to marry me. So.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, I think the things I will point out there, expectations seem to be in alignment early on.
Yeah.
Again, if without knowing anything, you come out of school with your doctorate and you're making like zero money to start, we forgot to mention the business owner side of it. So it sounds like that there was just that level of expectation management on the front end, which that potentially could have been the thing, that there was just an understanding, which is fantastic. And, I've always said fortunately for you, not everybody's in that position, but my wife worked for a lot of years and we needed her income. I always say that the secret, the best thing for a entrepreneur is having a spouse that has an income. I mean, it's a beautiful place to be when you need it, because it takes some of the pressure off. Now, not everyone is that lucky, and we have people in our group that have been successful without that. But it certainly doesn't hurt. It certainly doesn't hurt. So I think that's amazing. Before we wrap up, one more question. For someone that's on the fence about ChiroBiz 101 or Mastermind or joining our community, what would you tell them?
Well, we tell them to do it. First and foremost, I mean, there's, again, the numbers don't lie. Like, you can't argue. You cannot argue with facts, and numbers are facts. So if you're somebody out there that's hesitant about doing it, trying to convince yourself otherwise, I think you need to take a good look in the mirror and understand that the issue isn't, being able to blame anybody else, but just yourself. And you're just afraid to make the decision. But that's what it all boils down to, is just having the confidence to say, you know what, I'm going to trust in this and make that decision for myself, because I know that if I make this investment, it's going to pay dividends down the road. I think it's the same conversation that we have with patients. It all boils down to decision making. And is this person confident in making a decision? I'm trying to project my confidence to these people that are listening. Like, hey, steal some confidence from me. Have the faith in yourself. Have the faith in the program that it is going to work.
Love that. Love that. And folks out there, to see if that's just lip service, Mike was the winner this year of our referral for reward raffle that flew him and his wife out to the last live event, plus a nice cash reward as well for referring the most people to Chiro's 101. So that isn't just talk, that is actual action. Mike, before we wrap up, I want to take a moment to express my sincere gratitude to you. When you joined our program, you were one of those people that was so enthusiastic that made me nervous. Because sometimes it's like the girl that's like, oh my God, I'm really into it. And it's like, all right, sometimes as soon as they come in, that's how enthusiastic they leave you. And you have held that enthusiasm and had that enthusiasm and grittiness ever since I've met you, and it hasn't changed. And with that level of enthusiasm, with that level of energy, with that level of trust and belief, it's impossible that if you just keep with it long enough that you're not going to build everything that you want. And you've taken some amazing steps in the last year since I've known you. And I think we're literally just getting started, but I see you as a leader in this program, in this profession. You're someone who puts themselves out there. And I think what you said before is true. You are someone who really, really does have trust and faith in themselves and has continually made bets, successful ones on yourself. So I appreciate you very much for being here, and I appreciate you being on the podcast. Before we wrap up, tell the audience where they can find you on socials or whatever.
Sure. Well, I appreciate that compliment, Justin. It is, I'm very happy to be here. And again, everybody, it goes back to having enthusiasm. You have to be enthusiastic about what you do every single day. Can't lose the enthusiasm. So people can find me. I'm located in Raleigh, North Carolina. The name of the practice is Functional Chiropractic and Rehab. We're on Instagram at functional.chiro.rehab. Give us a follow. Use some of our Instagram ideas. We've been doing well on Instagram, so we're posting there constantly. So feel free to shoot us a DM if you guys have any questions.
Love it. Thanks, Mike.
Awesome. Take care, Justin.
Before you go, listen, we are in live event season, and I am going to tell you, you need to be at our live event. Please, please, please go into the show notes here, click on the link to apply for a guest pass. Someone on our team will get in touch with you. You need to be there. Please give yourself a chance. I'm begging you. If you really hate it, just come up after and tell me, kick me in the shins, do something crazy. I don't even care. It's never happened. There's literally never anyone that's never left there who hasn't had an unbelievable experience. So I'm asking you, I'm cordially inviting you, go into the show notes, apply for a guest pass, May 18th, 19th. Any way you can get there, please. Can't wait to see you there.